In 1558, the most powerful man in the world faced an impossible decision. Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent ruled 3 continents. He commanded armies that made Europe tremble. But in his private chambers, he sought the counsel of someone unexpected. His daughter, a woman who held no official title. A princess who would never wear the crown, yet every ambassador, every vizier, every prince knew the truth. If you wanted to influence the Sultan, you needed her approval first. Her name was Mihrimah Sultan, and this is the story of how a princess became more powerful than any queen in history. The year is 1522. The Ottoman Empire stands at the peak of its glory. Sultan Suleiman has just begun his reign, and his favorite wife Roxelana has given him a gift beyond measure. Not a son this time, but a daughter. They named her Mihrimah, meaning sun and moon. The name itself was a declaration. This child would be extraordinary. In an empire where daughters were often overlooked, Suleiman made a radical decision. He would raise this girl as if she were a prince. While other Ottoman princesses learned embroidery and poetry, Mihrimah studied statecraft and strategy. Her tutors were the finest scholars in the empire. She learned 7 languages fluently: Persian, Arabic, Greek, Latin. By age 12, she could debate philosophy with the court's greatest minds. But language was just the beginning. Suleiman invited her to council meetings. Imagine that. A teenage girl sitting among grey-bearded viziers, listening to discussions of war and diplomacy. The generals were shocked. The advisors whispered behind closed doors. Suleiman didn't care. He saw something in his daughter that others missed. A mind sharper than Damascus steel. An ability to see patterns others couldn't perceive. While her brothers played with wooden swords, Mihrimah played with ideas that would reshape an empire. Roxelana, her mother, taught her different lessons: how to navigate the deadly politics of the imperial court, how to build alliances without making enemies, how to appear soft while wielding iron influence. These lessons would prove more valuable than any military strategy. By age 16, Mihrimah had become her mother's trusted confidant. She witnessed firsthand how Roxelana had risen from slave to empress, how intelligence and patience could overcome any obstacle, how the right word whispered at the right moment could change the course of history. But Mihrimah's own path to power was about to begin, and it would start with a marriage that would shock the entire court. In 1539, when Mihrimah turned 17, every powerful family in the empire sought her hand. Marrying the Sultan's favorite daughter meant access to unlimited power and wealth. The competition was fierce. Princes, pashas, and nobles all presented their cases. Suleiman chose Rustam Pasha. On the surface, it seemed like a strange match. Rustam was not handsome. He was not charming. He came from a humble background, the son of a Croatian pig farmer. Court ladies whispered cruel jokes about the princess married to a peasant. But Suleiman and Roxelana saw what others didn't. Rustam was brilliant, a financial genius who could multiply the empire's wealth, a loyal servant who would never threaten the throne. Most importantly, he was completely devoted to Mihrimah. He would be her instrument, not her master. The wedding was spectacular. Gold flowed like water. The celebrations lasted 15 days. Suleiman gifted his daughter the old palace, the former residence of sultans, but the real gift was something else entirely. Through this marriage, Mihrimah gained something no Ottoman princess had ever possessed: direct influence over the empire's finances and administration. Rustam became Grand Vizier, the second most powerful position in the empire. Everyone knew he consulted his wife on every major decision. Foreign ambassadors quickly learned the protocol. If you wanted to negotiate with the Ottoman Empire, you brought 2 gifts, one for the Grand Vizier, one for his wife. Mihrimah's true genius revealed itself in how she exercised power. She never demanded, she never threatened. Instead, she suggested, she advised. She asked thoughtful questions that led men to conclusions she had already reached. Her father called her his little vizier, but there was nothing little about her influence. Consider this remarkable fact. When the empire faced a military crisis in 1551, Suleiman assembled his war council. 12 of the most experienced military commanders in the world debated strategy for hours. They couldn't reach consensus. The disagreement was paralyzing the empire's response. Mihrimah was present, sitting quietly in the corner as she often did. Finally, she spoke. Her analysis of the situation was so clear, so logical, that within minutes the entire council aligned behind her proposed strategy. The campaign succeeded. The generals received the glory. But those in the palace knew the truth. Her wealth was staggering. Through careful investments and strategic gifts from her father, Mihrimah became the richest woman in the empire, possibly the richest woman in the world. She owned entire villages, vast estates, and trading ventures that spanned from Vienna to Baghdad. But she didn't hoard this wealth. She built mosques that still stand today as architectural marvels, schools that educated thousands, hospitals that treated the poor for free, a massive bridge across the Golden Horn that transformed Istanbul's commerce. Her charitable foundations supported writers, scientists, and artists. Why invest so heavily in public works? Mihrimah understood something that many rulers miss. Power isn't just about control, it's about loyalty. Every person who benefited from her generosity became an ally. Every community that thrived because of her foundations remembered her name. She was building a network of influence that would outlast any military conquest. The question everyone asked was simple. How could a woman with no official position wield such incredible power? The answer lay in her relationship with her father. Suleiman loved all his children, but Mihrimah held a special place in his heart. She was his confidant, his advisor, his emotional anchor. When Suleiman's sons competed for succession, creating dangerous rivalries that threatened the empire's stability, Mihrimah became the mediator. She alone could speak to her father about sensitive family matters without triggering his legendary temper. She translated between brothers who refused to speak directly. She diffused conflicts that could have torn the empire apart. Historical records reveal something extraordinary. In the last decade of Suleiman's life, nearly every major appointment in the empire required Mihrimah's approval. Not officially, of course, but ambassadors and courtiers knew the reality. If the princess opposed your nomination, it wouldn't happen. If she supported you, your rise was assured. Her influence extended beyond politics into culture and art. Mihrimah sponsored poets and artists, turning Istanbul into the cultural capital of the Islamic world. She commissioned works that celebrated women's intelligence and capability, subtly challenging the traditional limitations placed on her gender. The famous architect Sinan, considered one of the greatest builders in history, designed 2 mosques in her honor. One faced the rising sun, one faced the setting moon. Together they embodied her name, sun and moon. These weren't just beautiful buildings, they were statements, monuments to a woman's power and vision. When Roxelana died in 1558, many expected Mihrimah's influence to wane. After all, she had lost her greatest ally and mentor. But the opposite happened. Mihrimah stepped fully into her mother's role as Suleiman's closest advisor. The grief-stricken sultan leaned on his daughter more than ever. She managed his correspondence with foreign powers. She reviewed financial reports and suggested reforms. She attended diplomatic receptions and charmed foreign ambassadors with her wit and linguistic skills. European visitors wrote home in amazement. The Ottoman Empire, they reported, was partially governed by a woman who held no official title. But Mihrimah's greatest test came with the issue of succession. As Suleiman aged, the question of who would inherit the throne became critical. His sons, Selim and Bazid, were locked in bitter rivalry. The empire teetered on the edge of civil war. Brothers who should have been allies plotted against each other. Traditional Ottoman practice was brutal. When a new sultan took power, he typically executed all his brothers to prevent challenges to his rule. This law of fratricide had kept the empire stable, but at a terrible human cost. Mihrimah found it barbaric and worked tirelessly to find another way. She couldn't prevent the rivalry entirely. Family dynamics and political pressures were too powerful, but she managed the conflict with extraordinary skill. She convinced her father to separate the brothers, giving each distant provinces to govern. She mediated their disputes when possible. She prevented several assassination attempts by alerting her father to plots before they could unfold. When Suleiman finally chose Selim as his successor, it was Mihrimah who smoothed the transition. She negotiated agreements, she secured promises, she used her vast network of allies to ensure stability. The succession still resulted in tragedy, but it could have been far worse without her intervention. After Suleiman's death in 1566, many expected Mihrimah to retire from public life. New sultans often distanced themselves from their predecessors' advisors, but Selim II knew better. He needed his sister's political acumen and her extensive network of alliances. He kept her close, consulting her on major decisions just as their father had. Mihrimah now held a unique position. She had been daughter to one sultan, sister to another. She had influenced a reign spanning over 4 decades. She knew every secret, every alliance, every weakness in the imperial system. She was the institutional memory of the empire's highest levels of power. She continued her charitable work on an even grander scale. New hospitals, new schools, new mosques. Her foundations became a parallel government, providing services and support that the official administration couldn't or wouldn't provide. She was creating a legacy that would outlast her own life. Foreign ambassadors who had dealt with her father now dealt with her nephew. But they still brought gifts for Mihrimah, they still sought her counsel. A Venetian diplomat wrote in his report to the Senate that the princess remained the most influential person in the empire, with the possible exception of the Sultan himself. Think about the extraordinary nature of her achievement. In a society that legally restricted women's roles, she had become indispensable. She did this without violence, without coercion, without breaking any laws. She simply proved herself too valuable, too intelligent, too effective to be ignored or sidelined. Her secret wasn't complicated. She listened more than she spoke. She built alliances rather than enemies. She shared credit generously while quietly keeping control of key decisions. She made powerful men believe that her ideas were their own. She turned potential rivals into loyal allies by helping them achieve their ambitions. Mihrimah understood something that many leaders miss. True power doesn't come from titles or commands. It comes from being the person others cannot afford to lose. The person whose advice they trust. The person who solves problems others can't solve. The person who connects people and resources in ways that create value for everyone. By the 1570s, Mihrimah had become a living legend. Young women across the empire saw her as proof that intelligence and capability could overcome gender barriers. Artists painted her portrait. Poets wrote verses in her honor. Even in distant provinces, mothers named their daughters Mihrimah, hoping they would inherit some of her strength and wisdom. She never claimed to rule, she never demanded recognition, but every knowledgeable person in the empire knew the truth. The princess who would never be sultana had shaped the Ottoman Empire more than most sultans ever did. Her influence had directed wars, shaped diplomatic policy, reformed financial systems, and supported the arts and sciences. When she died in 1578 at age 56, the empire mourned as if they had lost a ruler. Thousands attended her funeral. The Sultan himself walked in the procession, an honor almost never given to women. She was buried in a magnificent tomb next to her father, a final symbol of their unique bond. Her mosques, schools, and hospitals continued serving the empire for centuries. The Mihrimah Sultan Mosque still stands in Istanbul today, a testament to her vision and influence. Historians still study her letters and documents, marveling at her political sophistication and strategic thinking. Mihrimah Sultan proved something revolutionary for her time. Power doesn't require a crown. Influence doesn't require an army. Intelligence, patience, and strategic thinking can achieve what force never could. She never commanded troops, never issued royal decrees, never sat on the throne. Yet she shaped an empire and changed history. Her story raises a fascinating question. How many other brilliant women throughout history wielded similar influence from behind the scenes? How many shaped kingdoms and empires while historians focused only on kings and generals? Mihrimah's legacy reminds us to look deeper, to recognize power in all its forms. She was more than a princess, more than a daughter of a sultan. She was a strategist, a diplomat, a philanthropist, and a visionary. She proved that in a world designed to limit women's power, intelligence could overcome every barrier. That patient influence could achieve more than loud demands. That true power comes not from what you command, but from what you inspire. If you enjoyed discovering the story of the princess who was more powerful than queens, subscribe to Imperial Secrets for more incredible historical stories that textbooks never tell. Next time, we'll reveal another secret from the Ottoman palace that will shock you. Until then, remember that power takes many forms. And sometimes the most influential person in the room is the one who appears to have no title at all.